Start the meeting less than a minute early. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this evening. Let the record reflect that all elected board members and student representative are present. And we'll go ahead and do the flags here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes, additions?
3 additions. Under superintendent's report, just wanted, information from Gold Bar's water damage report. Seems to come in daily, and so I just want to spend no more than a couple minutes of updating you.
We'll do that for 4.
And then under committees and association reports, add SHS scheduling committee. Cindy Bowie's going to give an update. I understand she's talked to all of the board members, and she will address that in the next steps. And then
That's under committee and association reports?
under committee and
I thought we
association
had that
reports.
as an item.
It was, but I left it as a placeholder because I hadn't yet talked to Cindy.
Okay.
As of when this packet went out Friday night, and we did finally catch up with each other, and so
Okay.
we talked, and that's, I think, the appropriate way to go.
Okay.
February 13th study session, under, as an additional item under financial reports, we'll devote the February 13th study session to initial snapshot of things happening as we start to get our budget in order and project enrollment and figure all that out, because the second step of that will be an actual retreat around the budget, because there's a lot of moving parts this year with ESSER sunsetting and things we're hearing from the legislature but not knowing anything, and so we just want to be prepared.
Okay. So we'll call the standard finance report DA or D1, and that update will be D2. And Cindy's placeholder to discuss the high school, it will be right in that committee association after ASB.
Sounds good. We just put it Sultan High School scheduling
You
committee.
got it. And we also will have executive session, a security issue. Anything else? Okay.
We've got a couple of things I didn't get back to Kayla on those minutes, a couple of small things to just talk to her afterwards.
Okay, yeah,
I don't think it's anything that we disagree with, no.
all right. That being the case, we have audience signed up this evening, and it looks like Jeff.
Am
You're
I
up.
the only one tonight?
Yes, you are, because the other person signed up is here for another part of the chocolate cake committee.
That might come in handy.
Yep.
Greetings, and thank you for this opportunity to address the board and administration. 12 months ago, I would have never imagined how, through a change of perspective, turn of events and doors had opened and opportunities have become available. I've discovered that though my software is outdated, my hardware is ancient, and my brain seems to be static, alas, I'm learning to think flexibly. Though the journey has had obstacles and challenges, I continue on and would generously meet with anyone that would care to hear my constructive reflections. Once again, I need to shout out to the tech department. I observed a classroom of Chromebooks, as well as the smart board, the whiteboard. It displayed a student creating artwork in real time, and to my eyes, that was just outstanding. This is coming from a former student to here, where chalkboards were still used and calculators didn't exist until at least 8th grade. That's right, no computers, no smart boards, no cell phones, so amazing. Good job, Dave. For this next part, I'd like to use a prop if allowable, and I'd like to sit this chair right here if that's okay. I'm no poet, and I abbreviated this just to get through it, so bear with me. The children walk into the class, the empty chair, they must pass. The teacher tells them to hold their memories dear. Your friend is gone now, but not to fear. Remember their friend who used to sit there, the friend who sat in that empty chair. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for 10 to 14-year-olds, and that rate has more than doubled since 2006. The percentage of middle school youth who have seriously thought of killing themselves ranges from 19 to 21 to 24% in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades respectively. Recently, during a class presentation, a student stated he was always feeling stressed out. When I later met, conversed, and listened to him, he confided to me that his parents were getting divorced. I continued listening and conversing with him in an appropriate and sensitive way. As I got up to move on towards another table of students, he leaned over towards me and told me thanks. I cannot stay here tonight for the whole meeting. I have a passenger with me, but I'd like to participate in Gigi's mental health committee. I also asked the board and administration to consider me as a trusted support in some way or capacity. We all have skills, gifts, abilities, and experience that benefits many if utilized and put to good use. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Next up, consent agenda. I guess there was a couple language things you'll work on in the consent.
Yeah, just a couple of words.
Okay. With that being said, I'll ask for, with no questions other than I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as included in our packet.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
A second?
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Financial report, part one.
Evening, Directors. So I think maybe just take a moment to read the item agenda page that I attached to that, because I think that there's some information that there is that is very germane as we go through. No, Kayla, actually open the agenda page itself. Just want to read the narrative there real quick. So as we go through the background on this, when we talk about this, we'll go into this a little bit more, but as far as the general fund balance, on December the 31st of 2022 is approximately $500,000 lower than the same point 12 months prior. And at first glance, that might seem rather alarming, but I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of explain and justify why that is the case. I said this is more a result of lower year-to-date revenue collections versus prior than increased expenditures. You know, we talk a lot about expenditures. How are we doing proportionately versus our budget and all those sorts of things. We function a lot, I should say we focus a lot on expenditures. But in this particular case, it's more a timing of the revenue receipts is what is driving the issue. Delays in approval of grants, our IDEA, which is our federal special education grant, and a new claiming portal for our title grants, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, have delayed collections, okay? Good news is that all these have now been claimed in the month of January, so for January we will see those year-to-date amounts that were expended to be recovered and to be reimbursed, and so we should see a nice turnaround in the month of January. But as we go through this, the last piece of this is DNR. Department of Natural Resources collections, again, can be highly variable. But as we look at the period of September through December of 22-23 versus last year, 12 months prior, our collections are $362,000 less than in that same period. So those three factors are significant as we look at where our fund balance is at the end of December 2022 versus 2021. Okay. All right, with that being said, let's jump back to the presentation, but I thought that preface was important as we go through this. So our enrollment for January 2022, traditional, we saw an increase of 5.1 versus prior month and a 0.6, so a total of 5.7 FTE greater than the month prior. Excuse me, as far as our AAFTE variance to budget, we are just plus 52.7. In January this month, in apportionment, we will receive the amount of shortfall for the months of September through December, and then a new higher proration for January will show up this month. So that will be nice to get there, and then we'll have the amounts to show what we're expecting then for the remainder of the year. Looking at our traditional enrollment, and Dan kind of mentioned, we're going to be looking at an enrollment for next year here very soon, but our traditional enrollment, our AAFTE, is at 1,948, and you can see that's the highest number that is on that graph in that entire time going back to 09-10. Kindergarten, we've seen a lot of growth as we talked about families moving into our district, having young children, and we're starting to see that growth, in our elementary schools, primarily here at Sultan Elementary. But the history as far as annual average FTE for kindergarten, 173 this year versus 161.6 last year. So definitely seeing an increase in our young students. Next graph, 2022-23 traditional enrollment versus budget estimate. You can see again ticked up slightly. Generally has been upward. We had one small little dip in December, but generally has been moving in an upward fashion throughout the year. Our ALE enrollment, the next graph. Again, a little more variability, but climbing steadily through November, then again a dip in December, and then bouncing back slightly in January to where we're right on. 45 has been just a really solid number this year. That we came into this thinking that our ALE program would about go in half from what it was a year ago, and it really has. It's been pretty darn close to 45, right on the money there throughout the year. Tax collections. As far as what is remaining, obviously the fall collection for 2022 is now done. So we have $145,365 in remaining uncollected proceeds. So that goes back as far as 1996 through 2022. And then again, we will have our new levies will be in the January report. We'll see the new amounts, the new levied amounts for both general fund and capital projects fund in January. As far as our budget status reports for Fund 10 General Fund, $1,422,638. Fund 20 Capital Projects Fund, $2,077,167. Fund 30, our Debt Service Fund, $127,420. Fund 40, our ASB, and again, this is all areas of ASB, all four schools combined, $197,334. And Fund 90, Transportation Vehicle Fund, $194,746. The exceptions reports follow thereafter, and overall things look really good. I mean, there's just a couple of discrepancies, as I had said in the preface. Really kind of, our fund balance is more a reflection of timing of receipt of revenues, not so much where expenditures are really out of line. I think the expenditures are doing very well. When you look at salary and benefits right here, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, we are right at budget, 0.0. We are where we would be if you, assumed that those amounts were distributed evenly month per month. You have a couple of little anomalies, but down there in the comments, I basically have gone into some detail as far as those anomalies, whether it be timing and things such as that. If we look at the next one, material supplies and operating costs, we do have a few more that are in the red. Again, red indicates 10% or greater above proportionate share. Yellow would be 0 to less than 10%. But overall, we are 4.4% below proportionate share through December. And then when you combine those two, when you combine all areas, salaries, benefits, material supplies, and operating costs, we are 0.7% below proportionate share. So again, just kind of reinforcing the comments at the open. It's not really expenditures right now when we're looking at fund balance. It is just timing of receipt of revenues. Okay? So if we continue on, then the history, the general fund balance history, and next month I will have then a forecast out through the month of August. What is shown there for August right now is just the F-197 estimate, which is $1.44 million, ending in August of '23. But as you can see, as I had mentioned in the open, for December, our change versus prior years, we are just about $500,000 below, $499,652 less than we were at the same point 12 months prior. But when we factor in all those other things, it brings that much more into view. And I think when we look at things in January, we'll have a much clearer, more apples to apples comparison for where we were versus 12 months prior. Okay? And then just the general fund percentage of total expenditures, we're at 4.3%. is what the estimate would be. And then again, next month I will get you an actual so that we'll see where we're at, based on a true projection, based on our actual apportionment to be received. Questions on that?
My only question is, when they do the adjustment for January, we have 54 students or whatever that number is.
Yeah, 50.
What's your approximate estimate of that dollar amount that'll come in?
I think we'll be at about
600?
between 550 and 600.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
For the year,
Yes.
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 not.
Right.
For the, yes,
For
for the
this
year, I'm
portion, it
sorry.
will be
Yes,
the
and we'll
full
get a
year.
portion of that, we'll get the portion up through that. Each month has a different percentage, so you'll get the difference between what you received for that month versus what you should have received for that month, for those months, and then a larger slice for the month of January. So you get the 4 months of back pay, basically, and then a larger allocation for the current month, which in this case would be January.
And then it will go to the right amount.
It'll
based
go
on
to
that
the right
check.
amount from that point forward, yes, so. And then Dan did, kind of mentioned in the open there as far as enrollment for next year. We've done some very preliminary things, and I think the plan is to look at that in more detail and have a presentation for you on the 13th of February, with the hope of then revisiting, I think, at the end of February, and hopefully being able to have something that we can move forward with in our budget planning meetings.
I think we need to talk about for those state forest lands and how we're budgeting those
Yes.
as best we can, because it seems like either they're coming down or they're changing in the timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're at right point, like I said, $363,000 less than where we were in the same period a year ago. Again, but they can be very
Right.
irregular.
We can catch up in 2
When you
months.
Yeah,
follow the
you catch up very
pathway-
quickly.
the pathway of the money, it's really difficult, once the harvest from DNR has been paid, all that's been paid off, it goes into the state treasurer, following that pathway of money is almost impossible, if not impossible.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And
Thank-
one
yeah.
thing on the county tax revenues, they decrease as we go back in time
Mm-hmm.
in the amount of, but was there something that happened in 2002?
Well, let's look here, 2002, what predates me here, but let's take a look.
Yeah, there must have been a change.
Oh, you see, yeah, that one does kind of stick out a little bit. I mean, the $5,100 or $5,200.
Yeah, that's 10 times what it should be,
Yeah, a lot more than the others.
yeah.
I don't know, but I could reach out to Chris Hyboom, the levy comptroller, and ask him if there's something odd that happened back then.
Because I haven't noticed that before in the previous ones, though. But anyway,
Maybe a 5 got put in front of the right number.
Yeah, it looks like that was the beginning balance. I don't see any certification adjustments or receipt adjustments, so I could go back and look. And I could reach out to Chris and just, maybe it's just an anomaly. Maybe there's one delinquency that's just sitting out there that is just never paid. Property, maybe there's a lien on that piece of property, and the property's just never changed hands or whatever, and we just don't collect it.
I'll see your next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Board Appreciation Month.
Okay, let me get to where we're at. So as you guys all probably know by now, January of each year is Board Appreciation Month. And we always take a moment to celebrate the service that 5 individuals make. Sometimes they do this year after year after year, and sometimes only for a few years. It's really dependent, but it at times can be very rewarding and at times very challenging. And I just want to personally thank all of the board members, regardless of how long they've served, and our student board representative.
I would also like to thank the board for allowing me to be here.
And just thank them each for service to this. It's, every year we seem to hear it's exciting, challenging time, and always based on new challenges and new things to be excited about, and I'm sure next year will be no different. And so I just want to take a moment to read a proclamation that I do every year, give each of the board representatives a certificate. We have one board member tonight that is celebrating 10 years of service on the Sultan School District School Board. And so we've got an additional certificate for that individual. And then we'll take a time, 10 minutes or however much you want, to interact, have some cake and water, and then we'll get back to business. And so I'll go ahead and read the proclamation here. It's probably being celebrated in boardrooms across the state as we speak. So the State of Washington Proclamation from Governor Jay Inslee. Whereas the mission of Washington's public school system is to ensure that all students achieve at high levels and possess the knowledge and skills to be responsible members of a democratic society and enjoy productive and satisfying lives. And whereas Washington's 295 locally elected school boards of directors and 9 elected educational service districts, ESDs, boards are the core of the public education governance system in our state, serve more than 1.1 million students, and have a combined annual budget of over $15 billion, and employ approximately 120,000 people. And whereas school boards play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, establishing policies and budgets, and setting clear standards of accountability for all involved. And whereas school board directors are directly accountable to residents in their school districts and regions, serving as a vital link between members of the community and their schools. And whereas school boards and ESDs provide a passionate voice of advocacy for public schools and the welfare of school children. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize school board directors as outstanding public servants and champions for public education. Now therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim January 2023 as School Board Recognition Month in Washington, and I encourage all people in the state to join me in this special observance. Signed the 4th day of January 2023. So on behalf of everybody in the room, on behalf of all of the nearly 2,000 students, myself, as I get to work directly with you, I just want to thank all of you for all of your hard work. The pathways ahead aren't always easy, they aren't always clear, but we managed to figure out a way to do it. And so with that said, I want to just take a moment to give you each a certificate that was is being presented to you on behalf of the Washington State School Directors Association. And so the first one is Byron Kindle, and the theme is Building the Future of Public Education, School Board Recognition Month. There you are, Byron. Thank you very much. There you are, Russ. We've done this a few times. And there you are, Cindy. Thank you. Ed, there you go. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you. And Gigi, thank you very much. And then we have one 10-year school director that we have this very special 10 years of board service recognition goes to Mr. Ed Hussman for 10 years of service. Congratulations. There you go.
That mean I'm older?
It means you've been doing this for 10 years, which is 9 years longer than Gigi and Byron. So. And, you know, interestingly, on a side note, when Patty Fountain and Tracy Cotterill retired, I think they retired with 42 years of service collectively. And it was such a long time that the Herald reached out to me and said, hey, is this true? And I said, it is true. That's a long time. But 10 years is nothing to sneeze at. That's a long time. And thank you.
I'm afraid to go look in the mirror now.
So I think Kayla's cutting the cake, and I'm glad that we have a good audience to help share in this celebration. And or wait a minute, is now the time once, or I'll let you run the meeting. I'll stay out of this. How about that?
I don't know what else we have for that particular item. Typically, at this time, we take about a 5-minute. Do you have something to add? Oh, yeah,
Well-
you're on you signed up to speak?
Yeah, we've got a couple more. That's why I got ahead of myself. Let the others, and then we'll celebrate.
It's not on my agenda, so anybody that wants to come forward for this particular item is welcome to do so.
Well, it is though.
Did I miss it?
So right here.
Oh, down at committee and association reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So maybe we better wait on the cake until we get to
Yeah.
that part. Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Now that you've got everybody's hopes up.
Give the cake and take the cake away.
I'll just stay with what I'm here to do.
Typically, we take a few minutes.
Right now? Is
So
now
everybody
okay?
can have, now is a great time, so everybody
Okay.
can have some cake, and then we'll go on into committee and association reports.
That's perfect.
So who wants to cut the cake? Are you a good cake cutter?
Sure, I'll
Then I'll help you serve up. Guys, restrooms either way, or you want to just relax about 10 minutes or so, Russ? Or- Okay.
very petitely and daintily because you're being watched on video. No pressure. Yes.
10 years on the cake.
10 years. But I used
Pass them out, that's what we're gonna do. They're right behind you. Well, we got some special ones for the board too.
We had they could pay her after months of testing, found out she had a copper deficiency. Thank you. Apparently, you know, you need so much. Are you better?
That one, work, how you doing?
So dizzy.
Everybody here got cake? Would you like a piece of cake?
You know, there's a couple things it could be.
Keep trying until you get it.
Yeah, I was a little worried because previous other
Get everybody to
then they were gonna quit. So they didn't do any of the checking ahead of time what it was gonna be.
You take it home, you know, other than that stroke. Well,
Anyway,
when did I have it?
Do they all live close or they?
not really, of course, Brandon's the oldest grandson. One that's been living here. So see that things that happen at his, and they come up every. He's got an older sister. She lives there. And the two grandkids that are in their late 20s.
That's, at least it couldn't work.
Then a bunch of little ones.
Do anything.
Hold up the cake.
Here's Mike right behind you.
That would be the worst.
Okay?
I couldn't.
Thanks for your help, you guys. And there's water here if anybody wants.
I didn't have dinner.
Yeah, you better pick up her call.
You want one to eat?
Oh, that's the worst.
We brought treats too. We have raspberry cheesecake and chocolate cheesecake. Thank you very much.
There's no calories.
Thank you for all you do. See? Thank you guys.
Calories.
You know,
Give some muscle relaxant and.
thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't there.
Peanut butter.
Take it home, any one, whichever one is left.
Peanut butter. Thank you for all of your service.
There was, two pieces got brought to me. I must have looked hungry. Yeah.
Thank you so much for all that you guys have done.
I'm not even supposed to eat this, but it's so delicious.
Thank you for all that you've done for us and our kids.
It's a pleasure. So, and they put her in physical therapy, she did all that, not getting better. She gets in with physical therapy. It's a little better, but still bothering her a lot. She gets a letter from them, they say, hey, it's what we do. She doesn't miss it. So finally, go back to the doctor, because they said, we're not going to close it, he inspected it, he ordered an MRI finally. She has a broken patella. And torn meniscus. Jill, she hurt her knee 6 months ago. And Elle and I finally let her get an MRI. So it's just a cracked patella and cracked femur. She was marching. She hasn't opened up the knife, she hasn't missed it at all. But she's been walking with a broken leg and a broken kneecap. Now they're trying to figure out whether it's surgery or what they got. And her torn meniscus. There are a few special
Yeah. We went out to Stevens Pass, I think it was that Friday or Saturday.
When we brought the bar together.
Yeah, did he have his cast on yet? I don't think he did. So we go up there, he's in front, he's tracking, we come down, and it's just a heat, stuff. My wrist hurts, I think I injured. So we sat go in. I had to like go through my leg. He's got a buddy that works out in front or something from some high school. We go down and see the skin process. It's probably fractured. Again, I'm not a doctor, can't tell you. So we wrapped it up. He goes, we had to sit and see the okay, let's go back there. Okay. Just don't fall, because the habit is to catch yourself, and that's what can happen. So we go out, and somehow he doesn't fall. But we come home, we go to the doctor next day, both bones in his arm are it's just
Not broke this time because we can break it before. Yes, it doesn't. This is
Yeah, that's a sport where it can happen.
Just wrap it up. Wrap it up tight.
I got my bill run so much that I turned out of my life for about 5 minutes. I went in the third quarter and played the rest of the game. What was it called? The best kid to be played.
It is a little better.
you guys all sit here. He was tackled.
I don't think so.
More calories than your
In some ways, I broke this week, but there's nothing they can do, because it's like a vertical crack, and it's just like crutches and twist it or fall.
You do? I didn't catch that.
Okay. PSC.
And this one. You never know. It's like it has somebody.
Okay, for SCA and then PSC.
Yeah, I know. I like all one. That was Wendy's scholar, so they can't have something. History of polar.
Okay. It doesn't matter, we get through it. And when I pass somebody or I forget something, Cindy always makes it, says, you skipped something. She thinks I did it accidentally, but I'm just trying to get through it.
There you go.
Yeah, we did, and it was unanimous. Yes, we did. Yes. See. Almost always do, especially if we have executive session.
They took it out.
I'm not a big fan of
It's an option, of course. I'll give it a try.
I'll have a great time with whistle. Have a whistle sound. Borrow it.
Oh, I can yell.
I bet you can. All right, everybody ready to get started back again? I think next up we have SEA representation, Brianne and Andrea.
So we just wanted to acknowledge School Board Appreciation Month. Let you know that we will be making a donation from SEA to the Sultan Food Bank for $123 for 2023 in the name of the Sultan School Board.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
And we also made you a little video. Turn around. Fifth graders at Sultan Elementary School would like to say, thank you, Thank you, school board members, for the biology class.
Yes, that's fine.
Thanks, bro. Thank you. We are Miss Douglas' third grade class at Goldbar Elementary, and we just wanted to say thank you. And we also want to say thank you for making food and ensuring education. Thank you for
Do I have anybody from Teamsters or PTA? ASB?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Then we have Cindy, I have you down for the Sultan, did I skip something?
PSC go?
Jeez,
We came up and talked to you guys
that's,
personally.
and I
Thank you.
misunderstood, okay. Thank you, PSC, we appreciate it. And then I have the Sultan High School Schedule Committee with Cindy.
Just to give an update, I've been working with the staff at Sultan High School for a while on the 6th and 7th day period. And the directive is looking for solutions to a 7-period day that will not diminish credit opportunities for students and push them back to a 24 credit and without opportunity to make up credits. The last meeting we had this last week produced an opportunity that's a little multi-phased that would bring back 0 hour, add an additional 7th period for those who need it, and provide a sliding scale schedule basically for some of the staff members due to the fact that there'd be an additional period per day. So between the 3 options there, it could possibly be an option, and they're working now to work on what would be required to make that type of an option work, staff-wise and financial. We meet again next Wednesday, so if anybody has questions, they can get them to me and I will get them to the committee for Wednesday's meeting.
Thank you.
That's the day after tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
Okay, did I miss any other associations or committees? Looks like we got it. All right, Mike, you're up for teaching and learning update.
Good evening, directors. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be here with everyone. I chose two. I've been just trying to go through all of my areas of responsibility and give you updates on a couple of them. It started with multilingual learners. Right now, our coordinator, Brent Bueller, and the team of paraprofessionals are preparing to do the WIDA exam, that's what it's called. And it is, there are new standards for us. So 2 years ago, we got done with our ELPA 21, which was the test at that time. And the actual standards were actually a little bit easier. And what we did is the state actually joined a consortium of 41 states that have adopted these same standards. So that now our students are all taking that test. And so it's quite a lengthy test, and the paras do a lot of great work. They do them in small groups of 5 each. So there are 5 paras. So it takes us about a week per school, and we have to kind of shut down services and do all the support side, and then we do the testing for that also. So, and then, so I just wanted to let you know about that. That was the multilingual piece, and then in general assessments, we're just finishing our winter benchmarking window. And what that is a time set aside and agreed upon with the Sultan Education Association that we do testing in these windows, one in fall, one in winter, one in spring. And that allows us to gather the benchmarking data that we need. So the elementaries are using iReady, the middle school is using AimsWeb, and we use the iReady at 9th grade also. So that's happening. There's also other testing going on, our assessments, gathering data. These work right into our use of the professional learning communities, and that's what gets talked about in the data that comes out of some of those assessments. So the last piece I wanted to talk about is the Instructional Material Review Committee. And thank you, Ed and Gigi, for your service on that this year. And our committee right now has put into the elementaries some materials and science from 2 different publishers. And we have 3 teachers from this building and 3 teachers, same grade levels at Gold Bar. So we have lots of teachers that are involved in that, and they have a window of basically the beginning of January until about mid-March to look at their pieces. And our committee is now, we're looking at elementary mathematics. And we have lots of needs, and we know that they're all coming down the pipe, but we're trying to work together, and the hard-working group of team that works together. So just wanted to give you a couple of updates tonight, and if you have any questions.
Questions? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have posted somewhere the statistics of how many students are tested and how many are actually in the ELL program?
Yeah, well, we can give you those from the office.
Oh.
We can get you in contact with Mr. Bueller, he's our coordinator, and we can provide you with whatever you need.
Okay, but it's not readily available for parents or anything?
It is, I would have to go look. We do have a section that's dedicated to the English language learners or multilingual learners. Right now we have 264 in program. So there's across all four comprehensive schools. So,
Okay.
and then we have about 30 that have transitioned out in the last 2 to 3 years. And we follow those students after they leave our program for a 2-year window and a 4-year window.
Is this, out of the 264, does that include the ones where the parents are refusing or
It
the
does,
services?
no, that would
It's
be
only
those
ones
that
that
are,
are active.
yeah, active. So those that have, that, and we have a very low number of refusals because we know that to be able to help those students when they come to this, start education in this country, we want to make sure that they would give them every possible advantage to sit in classrooms and get that learning.
Okay, because my son was recently tested, and he was born here. There are 3 questions on the language survey. The first question is, what languages did your students speak? What languages did they first learn? So in my household, we're a bilingual household, and because I put Spanish on there, he was tested, and he was put in the program. But the next question is, what is his dominant language? And it seems like the second and the third question were disregarded. So it doesn't matter what we put, what is the family's dominant language? It doesn't matter what the student's dominant language is. It just only matters what their first language is. And so I'm just curious, like, what the percentages are of kids who are being refused, or the kids who are like, who their main language is English, but they're in the program just because their first language is Spanish. Does that make sense?
Well, I think, I
But I guess I could get that from Brett.
You didn't get that?
No, I said I could probably get that from Brett, is what you're.
I've been in charge of the English language learners for 5 years, and I have 2 refusals in those 5 years. So if that is the number you want? I mean, because typically what we do, we look at that, and when it actually says that the primary languages, we have procedure that we have to follow from the state. So if it's marked, then we're supposed to go through that procedure.
Yeah, there's a flow chart. I looked up the flow chart, and it always goes back to the first question, but it disregards the second and third question. So, but maybe we can follow up.
Absolutely, yes,
off topic.
absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Did you sign it, ma'am? Are you on the sign it sheet?
No, I haven't. I went to the public library first.
Okay, if we could get that, just because you spoke at a public meeting, I want to make sure we have that before you leave. Thank you. And Paul, Student Services update.
All right, good evening, directors. Thank you for this opportunity. Before I introduce our folks tonight, I wanted to show my appreciation for the board. And oftentimes, as board members, you work hard, but you don't get a payday. So today, I brought you a special payday.
It's one of my favorite kinds of paydays.
It's a protein, it's a down on cake.
Counter.
Thank you.
Is that the payday from years ago?
This is not the cheap one either, this doesn't weigh.
I didn't have that protein to keep going. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, as I make my way back here, I wanted to introduce, so tonight, one of the programs that we have as special services is we have speech language pathologists that serve a number of our students in the area of communication. And as you know, in communication, there's a number of different areas in which students may need communication support. And I'm not going to steal their thunder because it's important to have distributed leadership. And so I'm going to introduce you to them, and they're going to talk a little bit about how they've started a program to get AAC devices into the hands of our students, working with parents directly. So I want to introduce Sherry Cooper and Heather Hausman, 2 of our SLPs. I'm embarrassed again.
So, I'm Sherry Cooper. This is Heather Hausman. We've been SLPs for quite a while. We have our Cs, so it's a top level before our masters. Back last year, we were finding that we had a lot of issues with kids not communicating. And we couldn't find a method to do it. Sometimes they don't learn the language, they don't learn the sounds, they don't learn the words. And so we had to be able to get them to talk. And we did that by having manual communications, which is pictures and words. And that's how they started. This is again, I think you can switch.
Just, excuse me, Dave, do you know what's making that noise back there?
I do, and I don't know if I can turn it off or not.
I'm having a difficult time, I'm half deaf, I guess. I don't want to miss anything that you're saying. What's a fish tank? I don't
There's no
know.
fish in it
You
yet.
did it?
There you go.
Thank you.
Don't kill the fish.
There's no fish in there yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
watch the fish, if they start floating, turn it.
No fish.
I mean, they should float.
So the initial part is to figure out what kind of communication system these kids need. We also know that they may start on a communication system, but may not end up on a communication, they may have their full language, expressively, verbally. So we went ahead, talked to Paul about the possibilities, we talked to the teachers of the preschool and the elementary, and we even have kids at the middle school and the high school. We got together in October with the parents, we discussed the options we had, that we would like to start a full total communication classrooms. One would be at Gold Bar, one would be at SES here. And then the middle schoolers and high schoolers are on a different level. They already have acquired their language, we approach them a little differently. So we met with the parents, we said, these are the options to get a communication device in your hands. The school cannot provide them. Dave, you've done a great job with the iPads. But in order to have it more functional communication, they have to be able to take these devices home and use it. Use it to communicate with their parents, if they hurt, what they need, what they want. And the parents can also use it with them in return. So finding the right devices is important. So I have come from a medical background, and I have done a lot of this stuff in the medical field with individuals who've had strokes. I said, well, there is a way to do it. We can tap into the insurance, Medicaid, and go through that route. And that's what we did. And to this date, so far, there's a lot still in trial mode. We have funded 3 of them 100% through the insurance. Sometimes there's a copay. If there's a copay, you have to go through a financial aid, and that usually covers 20% to 100%. So that's the difference. But all of them that we have gotten so far have been 100% financed by the medical insurance. So now, what do? We have some kids with them already. We have a lot of kids on trial. Heather's a little bit different boat because she works with the younger kids and they're still developing their language. Whereas the kids I work with already have the language, we just need to build in sentences and phrases that they can use to talk. You want to add anything?
I would say that my kids, they range in age from kindergarten to 5th grade, and they're at all different stages of language development. So for my kindergarteners, they're definitely in a language acquisition stage, so they're just soaking up the world around them and learning words and trying to put words together into longer utterances. So they may be speaking in words, phrases, and short sentences. And all the way up to a 5th grader who can answer and ask questions, can formulate longer sentences, but they often struggle with communication breakdowns, possibly due to autism. So it's kind of overcoming that social piece as well and finding a way to help them communicate beyond their disability.
Right, and some of our children do have language, but they made what they call dysarthria, which is an unintelligible form of speaking, and they are not understandable. These machines also help them talk for them. We have one student that is a full-blown Boy Scout, and it's important for him to be able to say the pledge, and it's been programmed into his AAC device that it will say it for him. So instead of trying to figure out what he's trying to say, it comes out clear for him. You can have it in female voice, you can have it in male voice, but he loves it. Sometimes we have one child that won't even bring it to school because they use it so much at home. Kind of defeats the purpose, but that's what I have to live with.
How much are these devices?
How much are they?
Yeah.
They can range in price from an app that you purchase through the app, through an Apple App Store, for $150, all the way up to a dedicated speech generating device that's $10,000. So it depends if it's an app, they're usually 500 or less, and then a full device, which has access to the internet and so many more capabilities.
The other,
it's a lot
the
more
other
expensive.
aspect of that is that an app is just an app.
It needs a device to be on it.
And when you have a dedicated device, you have, depending on the company that you go with, you have full support of that company. If you run into a problem, you can call them up, they'll do it. They can do it remotely. It's better for the student to have something like that because they have the actual support. Whereas the app is great, but it's limiting. So, why AAC? 10% of our kids have communication disorders. We know that. We've identified around 30 kids. That's a lot of kids in this district. Some have hearing loss. Paul was good enough to get a DM set up for one of our students who has moderate to severe hearing loss in both ears. He has to have a special device so he can hear it. And that has made a big difference for that student. It helps facilitate language, and once it's facilitated, sometimes they don't need the AAC device after a number of years. They can just start being normal. But it's a key to help these kids acquire their language function.
Yep, and along with that, it also reinforces their language skills, so it's not ever considered a substitute for their own communication. It's meant to be a bridge between them and who they're trying to communicate with.
So, when you guys were kids, you used to take the cans with a string in between them. That's a non-traditional way of communicating, but guess what? You heard on the other end of that string what they were saying. This is the same thing, not with the string, but with an augmentative communication device. There are so many different programs out there. We have tried LAMP, we have tried Touch Chat, Prologo 2. They all work. Some kids do better with Prologo too. We have one student over here at SES who's really good on it. He doesn't like any other program. Okay, well, that's only an app. So you have to look at that. Other kids do better with just pictures. Some kids do better with pictures with full sentences. It just depends on the student. It's a lot of work to figure out what they need and what's going to work for them. There's that dog. So the whole idea is to establish a communication system within the school district that everyone will be able to talk. And part of it is using the AAC system. And as they mature, they can move up in technology. And every year it's advancing. These systems that the kids have now or will be getting last 5 years before they can get a new one. So there is a time factor on that. And then again, we go through the insurance company. It's all done prior to the trial that we start with the kids so we don't have a huge disappointment. So we know going into it whether it's going to get covered or not covered. That's when we also find out, well, what's left over that has to be paid out of pocket. And if the family can't afford it, we say, you need to fill out a financial application. And they usually waive that extra fee. The trial usually runs 3 weeks. This company we've been using lets us use it up to 6 weeks. So it's really good to see if their kids are really able to use these systems or not. We have to do an evaluation. takes about a week to do. They say a couple hours, that's not true. They actually walk you through the process. If something's not quite right, they'll help you out with that. You have to use IDC-10 codes, which is medical codes for it, for the diagnostics, usually with autism, apraxia, dysarthria, language development delay. Those are all ICD-10 codes that can be used to get these devices. I think I sent a list out to everybody on the different ICD-10, so they have those now. So after that, it takes about 3 weeks to get the device.
So from our experimentation with many different apps, many different devices, we've kind of zeroed in on one company that offers a more seamless process from trial to the student actually having a dedicated device of their own. And that company is Lingraphica. And we brought some of those devices tonight along with more app-based AAC programs as well. So we'll do a little demo with you guys so you can check out the devices.
So you wanna, we're gonna get the devices for you guys so you can try it.
I have no trouble coming up. You would prefer that I communicate.
Everybody.
It just shut me up.
Try this one.
Russ needs some earphones.
I do. Thanks, Ann.
So this is the Lingraphica device.
Okay.
And this is an app.
Icon Library.
App-based. This one's called Grid. So it's supposed to.
My name is Pat.
Oh, you get one.
Google Play
Can I
Store.
use this to run the meeting, because it's just speaking?
Yeah, you actually could if you wanted this program for it.
Mexican food.
This is for younger kids.
No, perfect.
So I'm putting a picture in front of you guys.
I need help. I want
Whose was that? Can I just use this as my way of?
Don't worry, we can help you.
I need help.
Yes, that one too.
The first approach when we hand these, the kids love to punch everything they can. So you've got words going at you every single second. Sometimes it screws up the computer. So we had to kind of slow them down, and then we start a program. Heather has an approach that's been excellent. I have to brag about you.
Thank you, Sherry. So just to do a little demo with you guys, the device that you have, Mr. Chapwick, so if you go to Action Verbs.
Action verbs.
Okay, so you can take a look at your picture here, and just like a student in the classroom would be asked to maybe look at an image and then formulate a sentence, an original sentence based on that picture. We'll have you guys try to put together a sentence. So pronouns are at the top,
And then you can go
Okay.
into
and then there's
like
some
food.
little helping
if you want.
verbs,
They
okay? And then verbs.
are dancing.
Ooh, very nice, alright.
You got-
So we're
I
gonna
want-
put the device
you need
down. And then,
I want to take them.
ordering something.
You are ordering breakfast.
Are
There you go. What else?
None of them say I want to go to school.
Honestly, I kinda wish I had this going.
How are you doing?
my food.
You done with that?
Yeah, exactly.
We have a steak dinner.
that's good.
There you go. There you go. Now, if you go down here, as a store, you can go to shopping.
Yeah.
Alright, so totally accept playing as a good
It's
sentence.
the one thing to make this work within the school district is that we have to have the parents log into a Gmail account and then add the Chrome extension, and then they can access
Writing.
ClassLink
Connect your-
and
Okay,
what else?
You're a very
Near
advanced
pause and
user, so you're
anything
able
else.
to put
Canvas
subject,
to
verb,
work on
object,
their schoolwork.
sentences, so
I
this-
hope I'm advanced.
This folder is limited to subject, verb, sentences,
Okay.
and that's just because I designed it for certain kids who were working on that as a goal. But in most of the AAC programs, you would be able to hop to another screen and choose an object to finish your sentence, like I am writing
Oh,
a
you're
letter
adding.
or a
That's
book.
good.
So all of those
I'm looking
words
for
would be in
mom.
different folders that you learn pathways in order to get
What
those.
you do is you type in, Mom, there you go.
Yeah, okay.
Wants and needs.
And then you can scroll up.
And how about your picture?
I want.
And you say, okay, click on that.
I
You'd be the slowest talking kid in your class.
That's okay. This is also kind of meant to make you guys feel
Okay.
slightly uncomfortable, just as our
Oh, I don't
users
need this.
do when they're learning how to use
Say-
a new device.
You type in here, Mom.
short.
I don't see why.
Or baking, maybe.
Say, okay, with the green arrow.
Baby, go shopping.
We have salmon eggs hatching in there, we're
There
gonna
you
turn it on.
go.
I had no idea that some kind of advice was used. My grandkids would shut up. I mean, and I mean that in a loving grandfatherly way.
Go into the gallery.
My kindergarten grandkids are same.
So out of a class of 11, 8 of those 11 students in the SLP classroom are very low.
You know, I don't know a lot of adults that haven't acquired language skills, so will they eventually get there? Or just exploits it, or are there some adults that I don't know of
You
that
know,
are
it's,
And you can draw a
that's a
tree.
big question. So there may be
Does this have
kids
the
who
ability
remain
to take the
nonverbal
photo
the rest of
also?
their lives,
Yes.
and that's,
So
that would
that's
be
already
part of
there.
the autism. But then their trajectory can just be so much slower that they can still be acquiring language.
So if you go here, this is
But they're just so much slower.
just click on that, you can
This
take
is
it.
also teaching a little bit of reading.
Yep, it teaches spelling, it teaches writing, and reading, so we try to use the device for A support all of them.
A need that I didn't even know existed.
Salmon are hatching back here.
You have to do
So this is a different system than this. This is
Same company, but this, they both have templates.
Well, I did it. I have
Like big sentences.
Formatting. So,
Mine is, what Heather has, that's where I started.
Very interesting. What percentage of the students that have this need advanced to the point where we believe they are, what is the right word, caught up with the I think it's all.
I think if they work at it, they can do it.
So it's actually, I don't know a lot of the non-verbal adults.
You're out there.
Well, that's what she shared with me. I wish I had a few more of them around me at times, but, and I mean, that's only something. I just don't think of that as being a problem. And I've met a person that ashamedly said they never acquired the skill to read. You know, and they have a full-time job. They can't read. They failed. They weren't in our school then.
the entire section. So this particular device is already paired on, so there's
Can you add words to it?
yeah, you can add endlessly. Okay. Yeah. And so part of our goal is also teaching students if they're already
That's good training.
devices.
It's
So
great.
parents
Can
would
I take this one home?
Yeah.
Am I improve my
Actually, I have to.
Students already know how to add buttons and
cards back to
words if they want to.
I got it as close as I can.
I like how you're being so specific, so you're probably starting to say I could onion.
Yeah, sorry, it's not gonna- I don't think
So, because onions would be in there, you're first package it. Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah, I'm like 20 years. When's the deal?
Your wife understands you're not.
I'm also gonna emphasize here because, students are just identifying their correct pronouns because they're not a lot of kids with autism.
Disabled. There's
Identifying
quite a
their
lot
correct pronouns,
of
words, right, it's hard. And then expanding the repertoire of words. So like so many kids, they understand what playing, sitting, walking, eating, but I have kids who don't know exercise brings or lifting or carrying or cutting or chopping, like those cringe vocabulary everybody is here.
In real life, every day.
It's a really good job.
It can't be over here. I don't really count freshmen or something.
Oh, okay, you already did incentives?
Directors want to thank you for letting us share that.
Entertain us, but I like simplistic word choice.
Well, that's right.
All right, nice job, guys.
And I think that the big key I want to remember is, so we have incredible speech language pathologists. And as you know, Russ, you've been here for a while. They were mostly contractors.
Yeah.
He's actually belonged.
No, that's fantastic, and you know, this is one of those things where I can speak for at least myself. I didn't really know that we needed devices.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was that need, and I'm glad somebody's working on it, and getting the insurance to pay for it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm lucky to work with them because kids have the needs, and when you have staff that are willing to go above and beyond and find how to address those needs, everybody does it. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I see Charlie here?
I'm doing Charlie.
Fencing, is this like what?
It's a solution to what we talked about last meeting.
Right, and I saw the stuff he sent us. Yeah, please carry on whenever you're ready.
Okay, so, whoops, I don't have a connection. Can you go to the picture? Yeah. I'm gonna handle this for Charlie. This is a follow-up to our last board meeting when there was, you know, as we continue to address the fence situation and the best way to limit access but also allow access is really the balance we're trying to strike. And so when you look at this particular one, I'll first take your eyes up to fence, or the number 18 in the kind of upper middle. That would be an addition to the original fence that would not, if it was open below, that allowed people access to the fields, the tennis court, the track, etc. 18 would remain closed, and that would not allow access to the backside of the school or in those areas. So that's one of the solutions. It's about 25 feet of fence. It looks real small, it is, but we think it'll work that, you know, as it is now, that we would leave these open for access like they are right now. And that's where the debate comes in on what's the right thing to do. And I think in some of the bigger communities, you just lock them down, and that's the way it is. In a community our size, we tend to, you know, it doesn't work quite that way. And we want to work as partners in this situation and trying to strike a balance of doing that. Second one I'll take you to is gates 11 and 12, almost straight down. This was, we will add some fencing in there, and they're out to you know, bid right now to see how much that would be. That would allow that Turk Drive to stay open during the day like it is right now. And so but you still couldn't access anywhere inside of that. And so, and I think for not only the people that walk on that road and use it, but I think it is we need to be able to get back and forth there without having that gate system there. So
That seems like a small addition.
yeah, I think both of them are, but I wanted to present to say, here's the follow-up from those discussions at the last board meeting based on concerns that were brought up and trying to figure out the best way to strike a balance in here. This is what we've come up with. And so I would just ask the board your thoughts, comments, whatnot. And, you know, And I would recommend that we adopt this, and, you know, I guess down the road, if people are utilizing the community's school district facilities on the weekends and they're not being taken care of, then we have to come up with a different plan.
Questions? This, to me, looks like a lot less changes than we thought we were going to have to solve this problem.
Yes.
So whoever came up with that, I commend them. I thought we were gonna have to do.
I think Charlie came up with 18, and I think Dan Ballard came up with 11 and 12.
I think it's a good compromise.
I'm really glad there's.
So if 11, 12, and 17 are open, then of course you can go all the way around the school and out the other front of the.
Yeah.
Without ever getting
Without
into
ever
the students.
getting-
Well, the gate on 17, I don't believe that's a gate, is it? That's the same
That's
gate that's
just
there.
The road
yeah.
gate.
Bar
It's
thing,
the bar,
stop,
yeah, just to block cars.
It stops cars.
It would block vehicles.
that I hate because I always wanna go that way.
No,
It's
I
always
always
closed.
get there, I'm like, it's
Yeah,
But
it was developed to just, Charlie had laid this out to try to, like I said, at 18 and then 11 and 12, just to find the pinch points, basically the smallest spots where there were kind of gaps to minimize the cost of adding additional fencing.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have to add 100
Yeah.
feet of fence.
I mean, it's not a perfect solution, but I think it's
Do we need
a
to
good compromise.
approve this?
I don't think you do, I mean, certainly I think it, you know, acknowledging your support for the plan, I think is
Are there
important.
any objections to the plan?
No.
Great.
No, I think that's a good
Okay.
It's a great solution for everybody to work on. And I'm certain in 6 months, somebody will have something else we have to modify to make it perfect, but it's a work in progress.
So we'll go ahead and move forward on, so there will be 18, 11, and 12, and then we still have we were moving forward on the panic bar,
Yeah,
3 gates. And I believe they're going in Wednesday.
great.
So
And-
not just 8, there'll be 2 other ones for that thing.
Yes, yeah, 2 others, so there'll be 3 total, and they will have cameras. Dave, is he here still?
No.
He left, okay,
Gonna resuscitate the fish.
yeah.
Dan, do we want to clarify weekend opening closings or?
It'll be open.
Okay.
And we have it as on the schedule on here, who's gonna
Okay.
do it.
So right now, we have people doing it on a schedule, but once these new additions are in, that will stop.
Okay.
Is the panic bar gonna be on gate 18?
No, it's gonna be on
Yeah, I know.
gate 18, no.
We might wanna look at that because all the other panic bars are in the same area. and
Yeah,
that-
correct.
That's a bad area.
How much is a panic bar?
I think it wasn't terribly,
I agree with that on that. That's, if something happened in the front of school, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
you
trying
gotta
to
get out
climb
the
the
other
fence in the
way.
back.
Yeah.
yeah, we can do that. I'll check with Charlie tomorrow about it.
Okay, we have a request for leave of absence for a bus driver.
Bus driver who has been going to school to be a teacher is requesting a leave of absence to do student teaching. And this is typically something that we, in support of the profession, have always done. So,
Questions?
Just the, in that letter, she said she can come back in May for the rest of the year. Is it a calendar year or the school year?
school year.
So at the end of June or so, then she's done.
She's, yeah, she
As a
would be on her
driver.
regular driver's responsibilities would end, and then
Right.
depending on whether or not she pursued a teaching position and was hired, you know, that would be changing job
But are we looking to
classification.
hire because of that end of year thing? For the following year, for her position?
I think we're hiring bus drivers right now.
Yeah. We have people in training right now.
Yeah. If I hear no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve bus driver leave of absence for.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of Turk Works donation. Morgan,
Yes. Good evening.
good evening.
I'm here again to talk about Turk's work. So high schools and maybe the country, I don't know. First jobs, after school job skills club. Because we've been working in partnership with the Washington Transitions Program at Washington State University. They have very generously offered to gift us $1,000 to continue working Turk's work programming, so.
We usually don't turn down these sort of things.
Right,
We'll
I
see how this
assumed like
goes.
this was kind of a slam dunk, but, you know, official rules,
I
whatever.
don't want it, I'll take it.
Any questions? I'll ask for a motion to approve the Turk Works donation of $1,000.
Yay, free money.
Second.
Do you have a second? I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, anybody that wants to come and give money anytime. We don't want strings, but we want the money.
To the best of my knowledge, the strings are real limited on this, like,
You gotta use
you
it.
gotta use it for
Right.
what it's worth.
Approval of
Anybody-
mental health
You saw
committee.
it.
This is Dan and Gigi. It sounds like you already got one volunteer.
Yeah, so this is, obviously, I think I would kind of back up a little bit, and I want to include Heidi Dawson in this discussion as well. Mental health obviously is on all of our minds, and so this would be the establishment of a mental health committee, but going back to, I think, the fall and late summer, there was some things happening around mental health in Monroe, and, we have been kind of part of that, but this would establish a committee. And I would kind of hand off to Gigi to talk a little bit about, what we talked about and sort of how you see this playing out.
What we'd like to do is, obviously, come up with a committee that would consist of staff, parents, community, and Heidi and I were talking earlier, she mentioned kids. So, a good group of people to come up with some ideas, what are we doing right? What do we need to do differently? I'm gonna let Heidi talk, but what we'd like to do is get a committee together. We can do an application if we'd like we're doing for the capital projects committee. But our goal is to have the committee set and our first meeting by the end of February. So at our meeting in February, we would either have met or have the date to meet. This is something that we need to do quickly, and just want your okay that we can go forward with this. Heidi, do you wanna?
Sure.
Sorry I left your name off, Heidi.
It's all right, no, you're good. There was a whole, I was on where to go with that? I wrote something down this time, so you don't get my whole long spiel. So, I was brought into a discussion about finding ways to support the youth in our community via mental health. I've spoken to you many times before, and this is something that's, I lost my train of thought. I feel strongly about this, and it's even more now, especially with the events that have happened in the last few weeks. I strongly urge you to consider allowing the formation of this committee so that we can better support our students and community. We always say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we need to come together as a village and support our children in the time of need and their darkest hours. When I brought the committee idea to Gigi, I was grateful to hear that bullying was on her radar and something that she was looking to address. While suicide prevention and bullying are two very large issues that need to be looked at, we need to remember that mental health is about so much more. We need to look at the bigger picture and make sure that these kids feel heard, supported, understood, and cared for. With that, it was my hope that this committee would be a true collaboration of staff, students, parents, and the community. Without having all four of these sides represented, we are limiting ourselves. We could very well miss something that needs to be looked at and remedied. They all have an intricate part to play, as each has a unique perspective on mental health and what it means to them. So circling back to the discussion I was brought into, I'd like to let you know that I already have a list of people interested in helping with this committee, supporting our students, and finding ways to better support what is currently being offered and ways to access them. Parents should know where to go to get help for their children. Teachers and staff should know what resources are available to them for helping students in the school, in their classroom, and where to direct parents to get help. Students should have multiple avenues to find help: friendship, mentorship, and understanding. We never know where or to whom a student is going to feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask for help. So we need to work together and keep pushing forward to break the stigma that goes alongside of mental health issues. We can do this if we work together. So I think it's something that, as long as we pull together and work with outside in the community, the school, students, and find all of those things and look at everything together, I think we can do some great things. We just need to get this moving, and I already have a group of people that want to do this.
Questions?
We have people.
Yep.
We need some more people. We want to, like I said, come back at the end of January with, end of February, with kind of what the goal of the committee is, to have specific goals. We want to do this by this date, kind of thing. So, yeah, we just want you guys to say, okay?
Thinking maybe, like, we did the application for the CFAC, same kind of thing, put that out there, so who's interested, wants to be part of it, and do that, and hopefully, set up a meeting shortly after that, maybe give it like a 2-week process, get it out there, and then have a meeting and just start brainstorming and figuring out where those cracks are, what we need to do, and just move forward as quickly as possible.
Do you have, like, is there a sign-up thing for this tomorrow, Thursday, speaking of the conventions?
Yeah, there's no sign up yet, but we'll chat.
Okay. Because I'm sure there's some people at the high school who would be willing to
Yeah.
come.
We definitely
We need
need
'em.
students, I mean, you're the ones who live it, you're there, your perspective is different than a parent, it's different than a community, it's different than staff, so, like, all 4 sides need to be represented.
Well, the students are in the school, seeing
Yeah.
their friends and their
Yeah.
peers on a daily basis. Any other questions? Then I would like to make a motion that we approve this, so I'll make the motion. You got a second from the student rep, I need one
I'll
more
second.
elected. I got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I'm actually shocked we haven't done this already.
Right.
Next up is the National School Board Conference 2023.
So we talked about this on December 11th at our board retreat, and I know that, well, I think Russ has gone to these in the past. Very valuable learning experience, lots of different training things that you can involve yourself in, and so we wanted to address this and see what everybody's thoughts were, and, I will certainly go if just one board member wants to go, or whatnot.
So at that meeting, we mentioned it, would anybody like to go? I know Gigi, you've mentioned you want to go. Ed, are you interested in going to Canyon?
What was the dates on that again?
It's April.
It ends, the
March.
the end of the date is the day of that
March.
spring break starts.
Well, I'm not at school.
April 1st through 3rd.
Yeah.
Probably not. Okay.
April Fool's Day. You could surprise us and show up.
Fall off a ladder.
Don't do that. Cindy, here's your schedule.
Open.
It was raining all that week.
Okay, are you interested in it? I can share, I went to 2 of them, in fact, one of them was in the same location, and you go in with the idea this is gonna be boring stuff, but because it's a national one, there's so many more things you can go to. There's 20 things at a time, and the guest speakers, although they're very interesting in this one, they give you perspective on education. But I think I learned more at the breakfasts, the luncheons, and the evenings when you were meeting with a board member from rural Missouri and somebody from downtown Chicago, and the challenges that are dissimilar but similar. It had a lot of value for me. I'm going to try to make that work on my schedule. And how's your schedule?
Check.
So it sounds like at least 2, probably 3 of us, maybe 5 if I can call the rain man and get it to rain on Ed's apples.
Well, you have an issue if you have 3 of them.
No, it's the same thing. We can list it as there's rules so we can do it. We just don't get together at lunch and decide what we're gonna do with it, anything in our own district. And maybe send out one of those polls with a place to add our name.
Yes.
We go from there.
With a to respond by date on it also.
Yes,
Yes, due date.
because there's a cutoff on saving the district money on this. Advanced early bird, we've missed the first, second.
So we've got the second. It goes from
Okay.
the 11th to the 30th of March.
Okay, so we're good, we can still save some money. All right, next up is second reading policy 2004 accountability goals. We didn't have many questions at the first reading, are there any questions for tonight's meeting?
No.
I have none on this one, I believe. Any questions?
No.
Then I'll ask for a motion to approve second reading of policy 2004 accountability goals.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second reading policy 3224, student dress. So recall, we made a subtle change, was it? Questions?
I still have my thing where we're pointing out this Kirpin at school thing sentence. It sure, it looks to me like if we just, on that paragraph down there, let's see, 1, 2, 3, anyway, under the uniforms nationally recognized.
Youth organizations.
And you go down to the bottom where it says dress codes, and just delete the such as the wearing of that.
You don't think it's necessary? I think that was.
Not only necessary, but it clouds what other issue you might have is how it compares, you know, to that. And if this is about a knife, and we got a gun as the symbol, then somebody's gonna argue, well, it's not a knife, because such as. So.
Paul, were you the one that addressed this?
Yeah, I mean, the reason it's in there is we see, as we change from a cultural perspective, just recognizing different cultures have different customs. And this, the Kirpon was as an example of a Sikh culture. It's, what they, in terms of that, is given when you reach a certain age and acknowledge. So it has to be on their person.
Right.
And we solved that, I shared with you that example that from Canada, you could bring down the necklace that has it on it. So they don't bring the full Kirpon to school that way.
And does it represent a small image of that on this necklace?
On the necklace it does, yeah.
My worry is if how we word it can backfire against one of our other policies, because I don't think our policy on weapons defines the length of the blade of a knife. And by adding,
caliber of the gun
right,
or
right.
anything
And so I agree with what you're saying, except that by saying we have an answer for that, we are indicating a variance to our policy that says no knives, guns, things. But how do you do it without explicitly, because I could have a religion that has, I guess, a really tiny image of I don't think it'd be very popular in this day and age, but a small gun as the image is what you're.
Well, what you're doing is you're creating a circumstance where somebody can say, well, such as this, but ours doesn't identify with that, so therefore we're exempt,
Okay.
kind of thing.
So what about,
It just gives grounds for clouding the issue, and I understand what you're trying to do, but you can do what you need to do without the such as.
So what if it said something, parents and administrators will work to resolve concerns around a religious and cultural attire that may not be allowed due to policy with policy allowable items? That's terrible language, but it addresses all of them without addressing this.
I mean, I don't see a really issue here, other than one of those, one of the
Is there a
thousand.
reason to put it in here versus putting it in the procedure?
Oh, we can put it in procedure.
Yeah.
I think if you stopped right where it said, where they meet with the administrator and your cultural attire, period.
Period.
And then go procedure, we'll cover everything else. Then I think that's fine.
Okay. Because we have to allow that group. I hate policy that doesn't allow adults in the room to make a decision,
Yeah.
because this is not a knife.
Right.
That's a culturally significant artifact for that student. I'm okay with that change. Everybody okay with that?
And in the procedure, I would go so far as to say, such as, and other, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So at least
Because-
it gives you the framework to get your foot in the door on other arguments. in that
We're gonna see this one, because we're seeing a real change in
Oh,
the
yeah.
socioeconomic and the cultural fabric of our community, and I'm certain there's ones we don't even know about that may be coming. Okay, with that change of
I have a
in that
question.
paragraph.
Gigi has a question.
Oh, please.
So for the purpose of this policy, that section, So we're talking about dress code, but then it says when a student's conduct is inconsistent
Well, that's the other
and
thing.
prohibited conduct, but we're talking about dress code. So why is it conduct and not dress?
Where are you at?
We're under C. for the-
Okay.
Would it be 100% spots on the
I think we tried to do a thing and or conduct,
Yeah.
and put that back in wherever it says student dress, we put and or conduct. Didn't we suggest that last time?
It just has conduct right now, it doesn't say dress.
Right.
Well, it needs,
It needs to say dress, because
Yeah.
it's the dress code.
Or dress.
Dress and
or
or
conduct,
Yeah.
but there's
yeah,
three or
if
four
the
places.
conduct needs to be their dress and or conduct.
My
Are
other
you catching all these? All right.
My only other thing is just a comment, the student's choices in matters of dress, and contribute to the preparation of post-high school employment. I just thought that was kind of weird.
Students'
Kind of
choice
out of
of
place.
matters should be made in consultation to contribute to the preparation of
So if somebody wants to be a mechanic, they're gonna dress like a mechanic, is that what we're saying? That just seemed like a weird sentence to put in there.
Maybe that's it, as we're thinking about some of the CTE classes and some of the things where, you know, they're preparing for their job. And if you were going to spend an hour a day at what do they call it, ROMAC, you might have a slightly different attire.
But it wouldn't violate.
Yeah, I
the
would.
issues anyway.
So, I guess the
I just
question
thought
is,
that was,
it's an odd thing to include. Student choices and matters of dress should be made in consultation with their parents and contribute to the preparation of post-high school employment.
do you have any, Serena?
You got really wordy there.
Do you have, I was quite, since that's you.
I can't hardly hear.
Oh, okay.
The fish, we're trying to save the fish.
Yes, no.
Do you have, like, with that, like, dress in preparation of post-high school employment, does that, do you like that, do you not like, because it's high school, you're,
Well, there
I
are
think
lots
it's
of
weird.
kids that want to do a lot of different things, so,
Yeah. That could be
What is
a
that?
that may or may not be
appropriate.
appropriate
It says that their
for high
parents should be
school.
consulted.
How about non-employment?
I don't know a high school student's gonna consult with their parents on what they're gonna wear either.
Like, does that sentence even need to be
I,
there?
I don't think it needs to be
I don't
there.
think it needs to be there.
I think it just,
Paul,
remove
do-
Maybe there's something, different
Just
type of
take it
class
out.
that maybe.
Let's just take it out.
it. Yeah, take that whole sentence.
It's gone.
I don't know what it was I wonder what it was intended, it's kind of wordy.
Somebody had too much cake, and then they put it in there,
Got a little
so,
hopped up on
yeah.
chocolate.
I think at one point in time, you know, the idea was that we were preparing kids for, employment after school, you know,
Responsible
after
decisions, yeah.
responsible decision-making, all that. It's probably something that, but
Okay.
Kids are different
Well, and
nowadays.
the nice
It's
thing is
not.
if we found out in a week we screwed this up, we can.
Paul said it's
we-
okay.
We can, yeah, well, we must be.
We blame
Then we
Paul.
can, we can modify it freely at our next
If
meeting.
it becomes a
So
problem
we're
in
gonna
her
strike
building, she'll let
sentence
us know.
Yeah,
Okay, any other things?
no.
Okay, so we struck sentence 2, we put the and or, and we took out the words after religious or cultural attire. We put a period there and left off that varies from the dress code such as wearing a crown at school.
Now, let me get this
Not
straight
the
out.
rest of that
So-
sentence
So
will
wherever
be
we're
accounted
saying,
for in the procedure, so that
Yes.
needs to be added to the
Yes.
procedure.
and wherever we see student choices in a matter of dress, we're gonna put a slash or something.
And or
Conduct.
conduct,
And
yes.
there's 3 or 4 places in there.
Okay, with those changes, do I have a motion to approve the second reading?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Good work, board.
So if you guys want to head out, we might, you know, I'm just gonna say, because I don't think any of our personnel are involved in any of the policies.
Yeah, everybody's free to leave at any time they want to, including if you have homework. First reading.
I might actually have to leave. Gotta do that, thank you.
You bet.
I totally forgot, it's finals week.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone.
You too. First reading policy 3210, non-discrimination.
He jumped right on that, didn't he?
Yeah, that's a smart kid right there.
I was kind of talking to district staff, but our student took
Yeah.
off, so.
Okay,
I have no questions or comments.
I like these policies that are 3 or 4 paragraphs. You know, we have sometimes there's 7 pages and very tough. If there is no questions, no suggested changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve first reading of policy 3210, non-discrimination. Have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. First reading, policy 3225, school-based threat assessment.
So you see in the markup. Pretty minimal change.
Yeah.
Suggested change. And so we're kind of following these through, going through an order, and we're not trying to pick things out purposely, but
No, that's good change.
as they come up like this, and this is an essential, so.
Questions?
Comment, an easy comment. The second paragraph, student behavior, comma, rather than a student's demographic or personal characteristics, comma. There should be a comma there. That's it.
Other characteristics of
That's it.
I think in modern English either acceptable, but I agree with you. Modern English. Other questions, comments? I'll ask for a motion with that comma to approve first reading of 3225 school-based threat assessment. I have a motion, do I have a second? I'm gonna give it to you. I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have policies listed for our February 27th, 23 meeting. Current relevant subject, policy 2145, suicide prevention, and policy 3211, prohibition of discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Should be some lively discussion on those, I'm certain. Next up, the superintendent's contract. This should have been done a few months ago. Many people in the room know I was absent due to a medical emergency, and a few things kind of slipped through the cracks, and this is one of them. We reached out to Lance, and this is the proper way to handle that delay. We had the contract in our packet with explanations. Questions about what we had?
Well, just had one comment here about that meeting for 227. I thought we moved that meeting to
It is.
228.
Oh, you're correct.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That meeting's not
Yep.
on
That is.
227.
Good catch.
Yeah, we need to make sure that gets changed on the website.
Thank you, Cindy.
So we're gonna be at a conference down in Olympia, the night of the 26th to the 27th. The 27th is a regular board meeting date. May or may not be back in time, so last meeting, we just moved it to the 28th. So
And
rather
all
than Monday night, it'll be
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Could be a basketball game.
On this contract, now, all we're doing is reapproving
What we discussed.
Yeah.
It's already written and.
Nothing's changed from our discussion.
It just didn't
didn't
get-
go through the
vote on
formal
it.
process.
Right.
And I'll take full responsibility. I wasn't here, and I should have, probably while I was in the hospital, I should have called and said, hey, this is really important. And I think everybody kind of thought we were done, and we should have had a meeting like we're having tonight and approved it at that point.
How long were you down? How many? 2 months? 3 months?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months. Doctor ordered, she'd ordered me to have longer vacations and before meetings.
So we have a motion to.
I asked for a motion to approve Dan's contract.
So
moved.
I have 2 motions, so I'll take Cindy first. Ed?
Second,
Ed?
or third, or fourth, or something.
Ed made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Well, it's good, you have a contract, that's kind of important.
It's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, apparently not, the school ran just.
It's fine. Well, we had everything, we were doing everything other than having the proper paperwork. And we acted on it as quickly as we could when we had it. Superintendent's report, preschool update?
So preschool update, started the enrollment process. We have, I think, less than 10 kids. And, we're still working at it. And we talked at the beginning of that, if we had 45 students, it would be 3 sections of 15. Worst case scenario would be 1 section of 15. and there's still a lot of time. In conjunction with this, we are continuing to work on trying to understand how flexible the transitional kindergarten enrollment is. And so I've been working with other districts that have some expertise in that, trying to connect with them. And we're moving down our list of people that we're going to talk to. And essentially what that means is transitional kindergarten came about because somebody discovered a loophole in what the law said and the way it was being applied. And so kids that are transitioning to kindergarten, that don't have access to preschool or early learning programs, that there's some other criteria, they can be considered for these programs. And it felt like we could, in my mind, I wanted to question how we increase that and have, rather than a tuition, have the state, have it be come through apportionment. But you have to be, it's got to be full day, it can't be half day, and there's a number of different things. And so I have been trying, and Paul is working with me on this, trying to find folks that have a really good thorough understanding of that so that we can make whatever adjustments we need to increase enrollment. So that's an ongoing process. And the secondary part of why that was important is the graded funding perspective, meaning you can have what's called targeted assistance elementary schools or a school-wide model. School-wide model allows for flexibility in how you mix funds. Because that was one of the questions that the board had, to make sure that we weren't going to put funds out in a way that was illegal. We don't have any plans to do that. But with the school-wide model, you're not so limited to this grant is only for this and this grant is only for that, and on and on and on. If you talk in your school-wide plan about serving kids through this model, then that allows you to kind of intermix some of the funding. So you might be able to, for example, bring in, if you had 4-year-olds in developmental preschool, bring in some kids that are on IEPs into this. If you had kids that were being served through ELL, you might be able to bring some of that funding in. Or, and kind of the big one between the two elementaries has been the high poverty lab funding. That we're just trying to figure out how and so really was trying to explore to start with, and I think we've made progress, but we still really have to cross that last bridge, and that's talking to folks that really understand the funding component of it and the what you can really do and what you can't really do.
Is that somebody at OSPI?
OSPI is part of it, but I think up in the Bellingham region is where this program was discovered and started. And so we're going to be working with somebody in the Bellingham district, I think, pretty soon to do that. There's people in other districts who have just been unsuccessful at connecting with them or whatnot. So,
what age does this state allow an IEP? Can a 3-year-old?
So, Paul, do you want to address the IEPs in developmental preschool?
Fish tank is driving me.
Yeah, I'm curious, I know,
off.
I grew up in Nebraska, and I was talking to my daughter, and one of the kids in their neighborhood, they noticed some deficiencies in some learning at a young age and had an IEP at 3 years old and had instruction through the public schools. Is that the same in
That's
Washington?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great.
So we had a funding source that we used to talk about here that really passed right through us. And it was the name of the school, Furwood, or what is that one that's in Lake Stevens? Early childhood, very early childhood, because we had an allocation for that, but we couldn't use it here. It passed right through us and went to, I think it's not the Lake Stevens School District, but that's where the school is.
So you'll continue to update us on this?
Yes.
Especially as you find closure in what we can do.
Yeah.
The sooner we know that, the better.
We will.
Legislative conference in Dale on the Hill?
So scheduled to go, just wanted to confirm, we've got, hotels are set up, dinner's set up, leave, I think Russ is going the day before, and so the rest of us will coordinate on travel, how we're gonna do that on Sunday, the 26th. We've tended to leave about 10 in the morning, get there around 12 to 1, but we'll, as we get dialed in better to what's exactly taking place, then we can, schedule how everybody wants to travel.
I think there's some construction in they're doing on Sundays, might check, might have to
Okay.
be a little earlier.
Okay. And then, we attached, or Kayla did, some of the requirements regarding the Open Public Meetings
Yeah.
Act. We'll make
Everybody
sure-
get a chance to read through that. Basically, we can meet, we can discuss issues on the Hill, we don't discuss things within our own district, anything that we're deciding on. It is a great time to get to know the personalities of the board. And Gigi sent out, I want to remind her, she sent us out there with the legislative priorities. I've been a legislative rep a ton of times. If it's not something we want to support, we don't not support it, we just don't address that.
Right.
That's the easiest way to do that. And there are at times things that are really important to the Seattle School District that are counter to, or at least they don't help us, and so you just go right past those to the things that are important to us. And if everybody has a chance, if there's some specific thing that isn't in there that's important to our district, we'll try to set up a meeting with our legislature within the 5 last minutes, so we're not breaking the rules of the WASDA conference, because you're only supposed to do their items. But we can make our own meeting for the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes of that meeting, and then we can discuss if there's something specific to our district. That's the best way to not offend anybody in the WASDA hierarchy or other school districts that feel like they don't get their say.
Or I don't know if in the past I've ever done it, decided beforehand, so then you can email, so we can
Yeah,
email
we
the
can,
legislators?
absolutely.
So if we know kind of that's only, I just wanted, if any of those were ones that we wanted to focus on, or if there's anything else. But,
I think it would be a great idea if there's something that we decide between now and then that's important to our district, if we'll email the legislator, and if they bring up the subject, we aren't crossing any boundaries, and then we would be open to answer their question about how it impacts our district.
Kind of making it sound like we're representatives in our district, that we're representing rather than our school.
when I did
In
the
a way,
calls though, they
in a way,
said we
we-
don't
in a way,
have
yeah.
to.
Because we have more power united than
Yeah.
200 different school districts. But if there's something that doesn't benefit us, that we feel like, and there have been those things, and, you know, if it helps Seattle, it generally isn't good for us. Now, there are things that aren't, but on those, you just don't talk to them. And we do have some say on what that legislative agenda is, because you went to the meeting where they were deciding what the, I don't know if you got into that.
Yeah, I just listened in, but
Um,
it didn't
if-
sound like they had an issue with us with other priorities.
Well, I
They
think
were
they'll
fine
tell
with
you that in the caucusing meeting that morning.
Yeah,
on
because I've been
the-
doing the calls, and yeah, they haven't mentioned that, so.
It's usually something they'll bring up in the caucuses. But there's some gray area there, and we need to get if there's things that we need their help with, then we can do that. And I think, the Gold Bar update.
Oh, Gold Bar update. So they have, they're moving remarkably fast. The latest thing I got is the Belfour now has the carbon samples. And so I think I sent you some pictures of the sheet rock going up. I think they were gonna be painting. I don't have anybody still here in Gold Bar, but they were gonna be painting. And so it's moving fast. And, you know, it won't be before long. I would predict by the end of February, this thing's about done.
That's pretty good
It is
considering all the
really
damage.
good. 2 months, full turnaround.
And I think we said at the last meeting, please thank all the individuals that put in a lot of
And
extra hours.
just again, you know, for the staff in Gold Bar, you know, we're all a little bit different and we all respond to these challenges, surprises, et cetera, differently. And, you know, it really kind of turned the place upside down for some folks. And just want to thank them again for kind of rolling with it, even though it's certainly not desired for anybody. And, you know, Charlie and Dave and Dan Bauer, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but a lot of folks helped. You know, and a
A
couple
lot
of
of the people that
did.
work for them.
Yeah, and a lot of their staffs, Charlie's staff in particular. The key in this was getting on it quick. I had some experience in another school district where we had so with Belfour, and they've delivered. And it's been a lot of years since I used them, but I had a kid steal a front-end loader in another school district and run it through the side of the high school and lifted up the roof and unsealed the envelope, and it all collapsed. It was a mess, way worse than this. But Belfour had it put together pretty quickly.
So Dan, now that we know that we're not being notified when the buildings are unpowered, we need to address that problem in all our buildings, so that when the power fails, somebody is notified.
Yes.
How are we gonna do that?
Well, we need to discuss that and come up with a plan. And part of what we talked about here is, you know, working with FEMA, trying to write a grant, just a notification, correct?
Yeah, just
I bet
so
there's a
somebody-
device for that.
When it fails, you know that it fails, some red light goes on.
So we have that on our refrigerating systems right now. So if the temperature, what is it, Dan, you get one, don't you? What does it do?
Just, it gives you any, if you have a temperature that's out of spec, it sends once an hour, it monitors every hour. But obviously, it's affected by, there's a battery in the sensor, but to send the message out, it's got to have internet connection, so if the power goes down, so it is dependent on having power.
In this particular case, the challenge was power was out everywhere, and you couldn't hardly move, you know, because of the ice, but
But I mean, there's antennas with radio
Right, there has
frequencies
to
and a
be-
battery.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes.
we'll figure out some way to communicate.
We'll have some ham radio.
But I think our staff's early intervention is really why this is moving so fast.
I'd still like to know about that T fitting, because it's just very unusual that the T has more metal in it than the surrounding pipe.
Right.
The pipe didn't split, the T split, and I was hoping that insurance people were gonna be looking into that, because there are other Ts in that system.
Yes. Was it black? I was thinking about
It's
this.
black
later.
iron.
It was black galvanized. So
Not
it's.
galvanized.
No?
Cold water pipe.
Yeah, it's just like
Cold water
iron.
pipe.
Okay.
And the T splitting out the pipe?
This T split exactly in half.
Oh, that's a casting.
And it was all rusty on the broken edges. And it's just weird.
But it's,
Maybe that's where the most pressure was, because there's more,
Pressure's the same everywhere.
it's a hard one to answer because we've not had water leaks. And so if it was showing.
Oh, yeah, you mean cracked, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the
Right.
rust issue and I thought, okay, something's wrong here. Because you could, when I looked at it, I remember seeing it. It wasn't like just a galvanized T that split in half. It did have a browning on.
Was it fresh? It doesn't take very long for.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know.
rust will happen really quick.
I don't know that rust, probably a few days since I saw it, before I saw it. That could be the
But
case.
are they investigating that at all, or is the insurance company just paying off?
So they brought a national guy in, or I think he's national with, because it went to their catastrophic coverage, because even though they weren't right around here, many school districts or schools were impacted. And so when WSRMP's insurance kind of went above theirs, they brought in what's called Sedgwick, a group called Sedgwick, and we heard they were hard to work with. We had a very good experience. And I told our guys that I thought it was because we had good detailed lists. It wasn't a shopping expedition through the insurance company. It was all done above board and honestly. And I thank them all for that. So.
All right.
But I don't have a good answer yet, but I'll ask the questions.
I think asking the question so that we know if we have defective Ts is where you're going. That's all I have for regular meeting. We have executive session for a security issue for, I'm gonna say 10 minutes. I'll come out if it takes longer than 10 and address and let people know we're gonna need more time. So I'll ask for a motion to adjourn our regular meeting. A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. We're gonna start executive session in 5 minutes. That'll be 2 minutes after 9 or 10 minutes. Did I give you 5?
Yes.
We're supposed to see that. Thank you, Heidi.
You're human? No, come on.
Yeah, I didn't see where it went. Thank you for coming to see me.
Check with her in the, because it might just be you weighing in.
I might just say, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know when to respond.
All right, well, okay, we'll see you on Wednesday then. You back on Wednesday? You're back on Wednesday, we'll see you on Wednesday. I'm gonna take my wife a piece of cake. How does that sound? You gonna take your wife a piece of cake? I think one is fine. I think one is fine.
My kids will like some cake.
Oh, please.
So,
I think the cake is,
What's that?
everybody that wants it.
what do you got in a
I
little
just ate
container?
cake, I haven't.
We were
taken
talking
the
IEPs,
5 months.
and one of the bills that's on the House is for IEPs to be done in the summer. And no one was.
All right, see you tomorrow.
IEPs what?
There's a bill to move the IEPs in the summer, so they can start the school year with it, and it actually allocates funds for it too.
I talked to Paul a little bit about that, I had him comment. What they do at the legislature is they send us this stuff, and they say, we want you to reply by 2 PM tomorrow. Seriously, they do, that's what it is. Every day we get something, and that was one of them. And so I said, well, Paul, how's this gonna work? And I don't know exactly how he answered, but he handled that one. And that would be ideal if we could pull it off. Finding the people to write the IPs in the summer is maybe our problem.
Yeah,
Possible.
well, it's a problem in a
Well,
lot
that's
of.
if they fund for it at least, then,
Yeah.
you know, allocate the funds.
Yes, because we're gonna go into.
You all right?
Wonder where, did Cindy go to the ladies' room?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do the same.
All right.
Oh, no, I gotta.
We need it yesterday.
We'll get an email. We'll get an email, hey, you didn't know we need this and you have an hour to do it.
Yeah.
Here, nice.
For that, or what's this for?
Thank you very much.